The champagne flowed like water at the Las Vegas Grand Prix after-party, the opulent Bellagio ballroom filled with the elite of Formula One racing. Jack Reynolds stood at the center of it all, his championship trophy gleaming beside him, his trademark smirk firmly in place. At 32, he was at the height of his career, five-time world champion worth over $500 million and possessing the kind of swagger that came from never having known failure. Gentlemen, to another flawless season. Jack raised his crystal flute, clinking it against those of his fellow drivers and the executives who paid his exorbitant salary. His perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit accentuated his athletic build, the product of rigorous training and natural genetics that had blessed him with both speed and stamina. Though I must say, you all made it too easy this year. Would you take a bet that could change your entire life on a whim? Would you risk your carefully constructed image for a moment of adrenaline and pride? These are questions Jack Reynolds should have asked himself before the events that would unfold that night. "Always the humble winner, aren't you, Jack?" laughed Tyler Bennett, heir to the Bennett oil fortune and Jack's oldest friend. "One of these days, that ego's gonna catch up with you." Jack's eyes flashed with amusement. "My ego is what keeps me winning, my friend." The night was young, and the alcohol was flowing freely when Tyler's expression shifted to something more mischievous. He lowered his voice, pulling Jack and three other drivers into a tighter circle. "I've got a proposition for you boys," Tyler said, his words slightly slurred. "A wager to make tonight interesting." "I'm listening," Jack replied, never one to back down from a challenge. Tyler's grin widened. $10 million says you won't marry the next woman who walks through those doors. Not just propose, actually, marry her. Within the week. A hush fell over their circle as the other. Men exchanged glances. Jason Martinez, Jack's main rival on the track, laughed nervously. "That's insane, even for us." But Jack's eyes had narrowed, the competitive fire that made him a champion on the track now burning in a different arena. "And if I do, then I pay up, and you get the satisfaction of proving you can charm anyone," Tyler said, "though I doubt even the great Jack Reynolds could convince a random woman to marry him in a week." "You underestimate me," Jack replied, his voice dangerously soft. "I'll take that bet." The men shook hands, and all eyes turned to the grand entrance of the ballroom. For several tense moments, no one entered. Then the double doors swung open. Emma Mitchell was having the worst night of her professional life. Her delivery van had broken down 3 blocks from the Bellagio, forcing her to push her dessert cart through the Las Vegas Strip, dodging drunk tourists and casino hoppers. Her catering company, Sweet Success, had landed this high-profile Formula One after-party by sheer luck when the original pastry chef had cancelled. Now she was an hour late, sweating through her chef's jacket and certain she was about to lose the biggest opportunity of her career. "I am so sorry," she gasped as she finally entered the ballroom, her chestnut hair escaping from what had once been a neat bun. At 30, Emma had built her small bakery in Denver from nothing, specializing in custom wedding cakes and desserts that were as beautiful as they were delicious. She wasn't rail-thin like the women who typically attended these events. Her curves were real and earned from sampling her own creations. But her warm brown eyes and genuine smile usually put clients at ease. Not tonight. The event coordinator looked ready to murder her. "You're late. The dessert table has been empty for 40 minutes and I have VIPs asking for their sweets," the woman hissed. "I know. I'm so sorry my van—" Emma began, but was cut off. "Just set up." Now, as Emma rushed to arrange her signature desserts, champagne-infused macarons, edible gold-dusted chocolate truffles, and miniature Grand Prix car-shaped pastries, she was oblivious to the 5 men watching her with intense interest. "Well, Jack," Tyler prompted, "that's your future wife right there." Jack studied the flustered baker, taking in her curves, her harried expression, and the careful way she arranged each dessert despite her obvious stress. She was pretty in an everyday way. Certainly not the model or actress type he usually dated. This would be a challenge, but then again, he'd built his career on mastering challenges. $10 million, you said? Jack confirmed, his smile predatory. Consider it done. He straightened his tie and made his way toward the dessert table, unaware that this bet would change the course of his life forever. Emma was arranging the last of her signature chocolate Grand Prix cars when she felt a presence beside her. When she looked up, she nearly dropped the delicate pastry she was holding. Even those who didn't follow racing knew Jack Reynolds. His face was plastered on billboards, sports magazines, and luxury watch advertisements across America. "Those look almost too good to eat," Jack said, his voice smooth as honey. Up close, Emma could see why half of America swooned over him. Piercing blue eyes, perfectly styled dark hair with just a touch of silver at the temples, and a smile that probably got him anything he wanted. "That's the highest compliment a baker can receive," Emma replied, trying to maintain her professional composure despite her flustered state. "Though they're meant to be eaten, so please help yourself." Jack selected one of the chocolate cars, inspecting it with genuine appreciation before taking a bite. His eyebrows rose in surprise. "That's incredible. The chocolate has a kick to it." "Chili-infused dark chocolate with a caramel center," Emma explained, relaxing slightly. "I like desserts." "That surprise you?" "I like surprises too," Jack said, his gaze intensifying. "I'm Jack Reynolds." "I know who you are," Emma smiled. "I'm Emma Mitchell, owner of Sweet Success Bakery." "Denver, right?" Jack asked, and Emma couldn't hide her surprise. "I noticed the logo on your cart. I raced at Pikes Peak last summer. Have you ever had a moment when someone you thought lived in a completely different world suddenly connected with yours? How would you react if a celebrity not only noticed you, but seemed genuinely interested?" "You remember a local bakery logo?" Emma asked skeptically. Jack laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "I have a photographic memory, useful on the track and occasionally for impressing beautiful bakers." Emma felt herself blush despite her best efforts. "Well, Mr. Reynolds, I'm flattered, but I should finish setting up before the event coordinator has my head." "Call me Jack, please," he insisted, then glanced around. "And don't worry about Miranda. She works for me, not the other way round." The next hour passed in a blur as Emma served her creations to the racing elite. To her surprise, Jack stayed nearby, introducing her to guests and praising her desserts as if he were her personal publicist. Emma couldn't figure out why a man who could have anyone's attention was focusing on her, but she couldn't deny enjoying it. "You should join me for a drink when you're done," Jack said as the crowd began to thin. "Consider it a thank you for salvaging the pearl." "Dessert crisis." Emma hesitated. "I should really get back to Denver. I have a wedding cake consultation early tomorrow." "Cancel it," Jack said automatically, then seeing her expression added, "or reschedule. One drink, Emma. Life's too short to rush back to responsibility." Maybe it was the way he said her name, or perhaps it was the adrenaline of the night, but Emma found herself agreeing. "One drink. But I choose the place. Somewhere normal." Jack's smile widened. "Define normal." "That's how Jack Reynolds, Formula One superstar, ended up at the Ellis Island Casino and Brewery, a local off-strip favorite known for its microbrews and lack of pretension. In his designer suit amid the casual crowd, Jack stood out like a peacock among pigeons, but he didn't seem to mind. "Best karaoke in Vegas," Emma explained as they settled into a booth with their craft beers. "And no paparazzi." "You'd be surprised where paparazzi turn up," Jack replied, taking a sip of his beer with appreciation. "This is good, different from the champagne I've been drinking all night." "I figured you could use something real," Emma said. "You spend so much time in that artificial world." Jack's eyes narrowed slightly. "You think my world is artificial?" "Isn't it?" Emma challenged. "The models, the parties, the people who want something from you. I watched you tonight. You have a different smile for the cameras than the one you use when you're actually enjoying yourself." Jack sat back, genuinely surprised. People rarely saw through his carefully constructed facade, especially not so quickly. "You're very observant, Ms. Mitchell." "Comes with the territory," Emma shrugged. "You can tell a lot about people by what kind of cake they choose and how they eat it. And what does my choice of chocolate race cars say about me?" Emma studied him for a moment. "That you appreciate craftsmanship, that you like things that remind you of your passion, and that despite all your success, you still get a childlike joy from simple pleasures." The conversation flowed easily after that, hours passing as they discussed everything from their favorite childhood memories to their most embarrassing professional moments. Emma found herself charmed by Jack's stories of growing up in Connecticut, the son of a mechanic who sacrificed everything to support his racing dreams. Jack, in turn, was fascinated by Emma's journey from food science major to bakery owner, impressed by her determination to build something meaningful rather than just profitable. When Emma finally checked her watch, she gasped. "It's 3 a.m. I really need to go." "Stay," Jack said, reaching for her hand across the table. "Stay in Vegas, with me." Emma laughed, thinking he was joking. "I have a business to run, Jack." "I'm serious," he insisted, his eyes intense. "Marry me." The laughter died in Emma's throat as she realized he wasn't smiling. "What?" "Marry me," Jack repeated. "I know it sounds crazy." "It sounds insane," Emma corrected, pulling her hand away. "We just met. You're Jack Reynolds. I'm nobody." "You're not nobody," Jack said firmly. "You're extraordinary, and I don't want this night to end." Emma stood up, gathering her purse. "This is what you do, isn't it? The grand gesture, the impulsive decision. It's how you live your life. But marriage isn't a race you can just enter on a whim." Jack stood too, towering over her. "I've never asked anyone to marry me before. Not once. And you shouldn't be." "Asking me?" Emma replied, her voice softening. "You don't even know me?" "Then give me time to know you," Jack countered. "Stay in Vegas for a week. If you still think I'm crazy after that, you can go back to Denver and never hear from me again." Emma hesitated. A week with Jack Reynolds. It was madness. She had orders to fill, consultations scheduled, employees depending on her. But when would an opportunity like this come again? 1 week, she finally agreed. But no more marriage proposals. Jack's smile returned, triumphant. "I make no promises." As he escorted her to the taxi stand, neither of them noticed the photographer lurking in the shadows, capturing the Formula One champion's unexpected night out with an unknown woman. By morning, the photos would be splashed across sports blogs worldwide, accompanied by wild speculation about Jack Reynolds' mysterious new love interest. And in a luxury suite at the Bellagio, Tyler Bennett raised an eyebrow at the text message from Jack. "Deal's still on. She's staying for a week." Emma woke to the sound of her phone buzzing incessantly. Blinking against the harsh light filtering through unfamiliar curtains, she fumbled for the device, struggling to orient herself. The events of the previous night came rushing back. The delivery, meeting Jack Reynolds, their surprisingly deep conversation at the brewery, and her impulsive decision to stay in Vegas for a week. "Hello?" she answered groggily. "Emma Mitchell, what the hell?" came. The sharp voice of her assistant manager, Sophia. "There are reporters outside the bakery. Your face is all over TMZ with the headline, 'Reynolds Mystery Woman.' Please tell me you didn't hook up with Jack Reynolds." Emma sat bolt upright, suddenly wide awake. "What? No, we just talked, that's all." "Well, just talking has gone viral," Sophia informed her, "and your phone must be blowing up because people have somehow found our business number. What should I tell them?" "Nothing," Emma exclaimed, panic rising. "Tell them no comment. I'll figure this out." After hanging up, Emma frantically searched for news about herself online. Sure enough, there she was. Slightly blurry photos showed her laughing with Jack at the brewery. Another captured him holding her hand across the table, and a final shot showed them standing close together outside the casino. The headlines ranged from speculative to outright fictional. Reynolds' new pit stop, bakery babe catches champion's eye. Jack's sweet new romance, from checkered flags to checkered aprons. Exclusive Jack Reynolds to propose to unknown baker. That last one made Emma's stomach drop. How could they possibly know about his ridiculous proposal? Had someone overheard them? Or was it just a wild guess that happened to be uncomfortably close to reality? A knock at her hotel room door made her jump. Cautiously approaching, she called out, "Who is it?" "Room service," came the reply. Emma hadn't ordered room service. Opening the door a crack with the security chain still in place, she found not a hotel employee, but Jack himself, holding a tray of coffee and pastries. "Good morning," he grinned, seemingly unfazed by the early hour or the media storm. "I thought you might need caffeine before facing the day." Emma reluctantly let him in, immediately saying, "Have you seen the news? We're everywhere." Jack set down the tray and casually poured coffee into 2 cups. "It was bound to happen. I'm surprised they didn't catch us sooner." "This is normal for you, isn't it?" Emma realized, accepting the coffee cup he offered. "But it's not normal for me. My small business is being swarmed by reporters, my face is plastered across gossip sites, and there are ridiculous rumors about us getting engaged. If you woke up to find yourself suddenly thrust into the spotlight, your private moments made public, how would you react? Would you embrace the attention or retreat from it?" Jack had the grace to look slightly apologetic. "I should have warned you. My life comes with a certain lack of privacy." "You think?" Emma retorted, taking a sip of the coffee, which was, annoyingly, exactly how she liked it. "How did you know I take my coffee with almond milk and cinnamon?" "I noticed at the brewery last night," Jack shrugged. "I pay attention to details about people who interest me." Despite her irritation, Emma was touched by this small consideration. "So what now? I can't even leave this room without being photographed." "Now," Jack said, his eyes lighting up with excitement, "we give them something worth photographing. I'm taking you on a proper date. My way." Before Emma could protest, Jack was making calls, and within an hour she found herself in a private helicopter soaring over the Grand Canyon. The morning sun cast the massive geological wonder in shades of amber and gold, taking her breath away. "This is incredible," Emma admitted, momentarily forgetting her anger about the media situation. "It gets better," Jack promised. The helicopter landed on a private plateau where a gourmet breakfast had been set up. A table with crisp white linens, silver domes covering hot plates, and a bottle of champagne chilling in an ice bucket. A personal chef stood ready to serve them. "Is this how you impress all your dates?" Emma asked as they settled at the table. Jack's expression grew unexpectedly serious. "I've never brought anyone here before. This is my private spot, where I come. To think when the world gets too loud." The sincerity in his voice caught Emma off guard. Throughout breakfast, Jack shared stories about his life that never made it to the press. His fears after a nearly fatal crash early in his career, the loneliness of constant travel, and the pressure of maintaining his carefully cultivated image. "People see the championship trophies and the models on my arm," he explained. "They don't see the empty hotel rooms or the friends who disappear when I'm not winning." "Why me?" Emma asked suddenly. "Out of all the women at that party last night, why spend time with the late baker who was covered in powdered sugar?" Jack hesitated just a fraction too long before answering. "Because you were real. You didn't care who I was or what I could do for you." Something about his hesitation nagged at Emma, but she pushed the feeling aside as they continued their day together. After the Grand Canyon, Jack took her to a private car collection in Henderson, where they spent hours examining vintage vehicles. Emma surprised him with her knowledge of engines, a byproduct of growing up with a father who restored classic cars as a hobby. "You continue to surprise me, Emma Mitchell," Jack said. watching her correctly identify a rare 1967 Shelby GT500. "Good," she replied with a smile. "You could use some surprises in your life." That evening they dined at a hole-in-the-wall Thai restaurant that Emma had researched online, far from the strip and the prying eyes of paparazzi. For a few precious hours, they were just a man and a woman enjoying each other's company, the ease of their conversation belying how little time they'd known each other. "Tell me about your bakery," Jack prompted as they shared mango sticky rice for dessert. "What made you want to start your own business?" Emma's face lit up as she described sweet success, the community she'd built, the wedding couples whose special days she'd enhanced, and her dreams of eventually expanding to a second location. "It's not glamorous," she admitted. "Some days I'm up at 3 a.m. mixing batters and covered in flour until midnight, but creating something beautiful that brings people joy. There's nothing like it." Jack watched her speak with an intensity that made her self-conscious. "What?" she finally asked. "I was just thinking that you and I aren't so different," he mused. "We both work insane hours doing what we love, both perfectionists in our fields, both married to our careers." "Except your career comes with fame and fortune," Emma pointed out, "and yours comes with the freedom to be yourself," Jack countered. "Fair trade-off, I'd say." As they walked back to the car, Jack's security detail keeping a discreet distance, Emma found herself genuinely enjoying his company. There was more to Jack Reynolds than the arrogant playboy the media portrayed. He was thoughtful, surprisingly down-to-earth once away from the cameras, and genuinely interested in her world. They were laughing about a shared childhood memory of 90s cartoons when Emma's phone rang. It was Sophia again. "Emma, I know you're having your Cinderella moment, but you need to see something," her assistant said urgently. "I'm sending you a link right now." The message came through, and Emma clicked on it, her blood running cold as she read the headline on a sports gossip site. "Reynolds marriage bet, inside sources reveal F1 star wagered 10 mit he could wed Baker within a week." The article quoted an anonymous source close to Jack, detailing the exact bet made at the Bellagio after-party. Emma's hands trembled as she read, her eyes filling with tears of humiliation and anger. "Emma?" Jack asked, noticing her sudden change in demeanor. "What's wrong?" She thrust the phone toward him, watching his face carefully as he read. The flash of guilt in his eyes told her everything she needed to know. "Is it true?" she demanded, her voice breaking. "Am I a bet, Jack? A $10 million wager to prove you can make anyone fall for your charm?" Jack reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Emma, listen. Just answer the question." She cut him off. "Is it true?" Jack's silence was confirmation enough. "Take me back to my hotel," Emma said, her voice deadly calm despite the tears now freely flowing down her cheeks. "I'm going home tomorrow." "Please let me explain," Jack pleaded. "It started as a bet, yes, but today, everything today was real. What I feel for you is real. What you feel for me?" Emma laughed bitterly. "You don't even know me. I'm just a challenge to you, a way to prove something to your rich friends. God, I was so stupid." "You're not stupid," Jack insisted. "And I do know you. I know you put cinnamon in your coffee. I know you can identify engine parts by sound. I know your favorite flavor to bake is lemon because it reminds you of your grandmother." "Stop." Emma held up her hand. "Just stop. The fact that you've been paying attention doesn't change why you started paying attention in the first place." As they drove back to the hotel in tense silence, Emma stared out the window at the glittering Las Vegas Strip. Everything here was an illusion. The replicas of world landmarks, the promise of instant wealth, and apparently Jack Reynolds' interest in her. In her hotel room, Emma immediately began packing, ignoring Jack's continued attempts to explain. She had just zipped her suitcase when there was another knock at the door. "Go away, Jack," she called, wiping fresh tears. "It's not Jack," came a different male voice. "It's Tyler Bennett, Jack's friend." and I think you should hear what I have to say." Against her better judgment, Emma opened the door to find a handsome man in his early 30s, with sandy hair and an apologetic expression. "I'm the one who made the bet with Jack," Tyler admitted without preamble, "and I'm here to tell you he's never been like this with anyone before. The Jack Reynolds I know doesn't spend days in hole-in-the-wall restaurants or share his private thinking spot or look at a woman the way he looks at you." "You expect me to believe that?" Emma asked incredulously. Tyler handed her his phone, showing a text exchange with Jack from just hours earlier. "Tyler, how's the bet going? Need to admit defeat yet?" Jack, "Call it off. This isn't about the bet anymore." Tyler, "Seriously? You're giving up 10 mitters?" Jack, "She's worth more than that. I don't want her to find out this way." Emma stared at the screen, her heart conflicted. "This could be staged," she said finally, handing the phone back. "For all I know, you're in on some elaborate plan." "It could be," Tyler acknowledged. "But ask yourself this. Why would Jack Reynolds, who has everything, risk it all on a baker from Denver unless something real was happening?" After Tyler left, Emma sat on the edge of the bed, more confused than ever. Part of her wanted to believe Jack had developed genuine feelings for her, but another part couldn't get past the humiliating origins of their connection. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jack. "I understand if you leave tomorrow, but if there's any chance you believe we could be something real, meet me at the High Roller observation wheel at sunset. No press, no friends, no bets, just us." Emma stared at the message for a long time, tears blurring her vision, as she tried to decide whether to take a chance on a man who had seen her as nothing more than a wager just 24 hours ago. The desert sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon, painting the Las Vegas Strip in hues of orange and gold. Emma stood outside the High Roller, the world's tallest observation wheel, debating whether to turn around and head straight to the airport instead. She'd spent the day alternating between anger and confusion. Every time she decided to leave without seeing Jack again, she remembered the genuine connection they'd shared at the Grand Canyon, the way his eyes had lit up when she talked about her passion for baking, the vulnerable moments when his carefully constructed facade had slipped. "This is crazy," she muttered to herself as she checked her watch. Sunset was in 15 minutes. If she was going to leave, now was the time. A young couple passed by, holding hands and laughing. The woman glanced at Emma's conflicted expression and offered a sympathetic smile. "Boy troubles?" she asked. Emma laughed despite herself. "You could say that." "My husband and I met in Vegas," the woman confided. "Everyone told us it was just the city magic, that real life would hit us hard once we left. 5 years and 2 kids later, we're still proving them wrong." Her husband nodded. "Sometimes you just know, even when the circumstances seem insane." As the couple walked away, Emma wondered, was she walking away from something potentially meaningful because of her pride? Or was she protecting herself from a man who had only approached her for a bet? What would you do in Emma's position? Would you give someone a second chance after such a humiliating revelation, or would you protect your heart and walk away? With seconds to spare before sunset, Emma made her decision and purchased a ticket. The High Roller moved continuously, and she stepped into an empty glass pod, her heart pounding. Had Jack already come and gone? Had he given up on her? But there he was, standing alone in the pod, wearing jeans and a simple button-down shirt instead of his usual designer attire. He looked more like the mechanic's son from Connecticut than the Formula One champion whose face adorned billboards worldwide. "You came," he said, relief evident in his voice. "I wasn't sure you would." "Neither was I," Emma admitted, keeping her distance as the pod began its slow ascent. "I'm still not sure this is a good idea." Jack nodded, respecting the space between them. "I deserve that, and more." He took a deep breath. "I owe you the complete truth, Emma. Not just about the bet, but about everything. As the high roller lifted them above the Las Vegas skyline, Jack told her the unvarnished story, the drunken wager, his initial arrogance in thinking he could charm any woman into marriage, and the unexpected way Emma had challenged his assumptions from the moment they met. The bet was real, he acknowledged, his voice filled with regret. But what happened afterward wasn't in the script. You were supposed to be dazzled by the private helicopter and the fancy breakfast. You were supposed to be impressed by my money and fame. Instead, you called me out on my artificial world and took me to a hole-in-the-wall Thai restaurant. Is that why you kept pursuing me? Because I wasn't falling for the usual Jack Reynolds charm? Emma asked. At first, maybe, Jack admitted, but then something changed. I found myself telling you things I've never told anyone, about the crash, about the loneliness. I wasn't playing a role anymore. For the first time in years, I was just being Jack. The pod reached its apex, offering a 360-degree view of the Las Vegas Valley. The Strip glittered below them like a river of light, the desert stretching into darkness beyond. I texted Tyler yesterday to call off the bet, Jack continued. Not because I thought I would lose, but because winning had stopped mattering. What started as a game became something I didn't want to risk losing. But you still kept the bet a secret, Emma pointed out. You let me believe our meeting was serendipity. Because I was ashamed, Jack said simply. How do you tell someone you're starting to care about that they began as a wager? I was hoping to find the right moment, to prove my feelings were genuine before confessing how it all started. And now? Emma asked, finally meeting his eyes. What happens now, Jack? Jack moved closer, though still not touching her. Now I'm asking for a chance, not a week, not a marriage proposal, just a chance to show you who I really am, beyond the bet and beyond the public persona. I have a life in Denver, Emma reminded him, a business I've built from nothing. I can't just drop everything for a vacation romance. I know, Jack nodded. And I would never ask you to, but I race in 20 countries every year, Emma. Denver could easily be stop 21. The sincerity in his voice made Emma's resolve waver. How do I know this isn't just another challenge for you? The thrill of the chase. You don't, Jack acknowledged. Words are cheap, especially from someone who makes their living through endorsements and interviews. All I can offer is time. Time to prove that what's happening between us is real. As their pod began its descent, bringing them back toward the ground, Jack reached for Emma's hand. After a moment's hesitation, she allowed him to take it. I'm not saying yes to anything definite, she clarified, but I'm not saying no either. Jack's smile was different from his usual confident grin. It was smaller, more vulnerable, but also more genuine. That's all I'm asking for. When they exited the high roller, a small crowd of photographers had gathered, apparently tipped off about Jack's location. Camera flashes burst around them as Jack instinctively moved to shield Emma. Mr. Reynolds, is this your new girlfriend? Emma, how does it feel to date a racing superstar? Jack, is the marriage rumor true? Emma froze at the barrage of questions and lights. This was Jack's world, the constant scrutiny, the invasion of privacy, the endless speculation. Could she really handle being part of it? To her surprise, Jack addressed the photographers directly. Guys, I know you're doing your jobs, but I'm asking for some space. Emma isn't a public figure, and she deserves privacy. So you are dating? One persistent reporter called out. Jack looked at Emma, a question in his eyes. She gave him a slight nod. We're getting to know each other, Jack replied carefully. That's all anyone needs to know, right? Now, please respect that. With his security team forming a barrier, Jack guided Emma to a waiting car. Once inside, she let out a shaky breath. Is it always like that? Often worse, Jack admitted, but we'll figure it out. If that's what you want? Emma looked at him thoughtfully. I think I'd like to try, but slowly, on our terms, not dictated by tabloids or friends making bets. Jack's relief was palpable. I can work with slowly. For the remainder of her time in Vegas, Emma and Jack established a routine that balanced his public obligations with private moments. They shared breakfast at small local diners, explored Red Rock Canyon, and spent evenings talking for hours about their dreams and fears. Jack attended a baking class with Emma, laughing as he struggled to pipe buttercream roses. Emma joined Jack at a charity race, finding herself genuinely interested in the mechanics of the sport that had defined his life. When it came time for Emma to return to Denver, the goodbye at the private airport was tense with unspoken emotions. "This doesn't have to be an ending," Jack said, helping load her bags onto his private jet, which he'd insisted on providing for her return journey. "It's not," Emma agreed, though uncertainty clouded her eyes. "But real life is waiting for me, orders to fill, payroll to meet, a business to run. And I have qualifying races in Monaco next week." Jack nodded. "But Denver's only a short flight from anywhere." As they stood on the tarmac, the desert wind whipping around them, Jack hesitated, then pulled a small box from his pocket. "I want you to have this. It's not a ring," he added quickly, seeing her alarmed expression. "Just open it." Inside was a delicate gold charm bracelet with a single charm, a tiny whisk. "For our beginning," Jack explained. "Each time I see you, I'll add another charm to mark the moment." The thoughtfulness of the gesture brought tears to Emma's eyes. She allowed Jack to fasten the bracelet around her wrist before rising on tiptoes to kiss him goodbye. Their first kiss, sweet with promise and complicated by the uncertainty of what would come next. "I'll call you when I land," she promised, then boarded the plane, looking back once to see Jack standing alone on the tarmac, watching her leave. As the jet took off, carrying her back to the life she'd built, Emma touched the small whisk charm and wondered if their fragile connection could survive the pull of their separate worlds. Jack Reynolds lived life at 200 miles per hour, while she measured hers in cups of flour and tablespoons of vanilla. Was there any way to reconcile such different existences? In Denver, reality hit hard and fast. The media attention had boosted Sweet Success's orders exponentially, leaving Emma and her team overwhelmed. Paparazzi camped outside the bakery, hoping to catch her in candid moments. Every customer seemed to have a question about her famous boyfriend. Despite the chaos, Emma and Jack maintained their connection through daily video calls. True to his word, Jack showed up in Denver 3 weeks later, arriving at the bakery's back entrance at closing time with another charm for her bracelet, a tiny Grand Canyon, and enough Thai takeout to feed her entire staff. That night, as they sat on the roof deck of her downtown loft, the city lights spread before them, Emma realized how easily Jack had slipped into her world. He helped wash dishes in the bakery, charmed her elderly neighbors, and seemed genuinely content away from the glamour of his usual environment. "I could get used to this," he admitted, his arm around her as they watched the stars. "Denver has a certain appeal." "You'd get bored," Emma predicted. "No adoring fans, no champagne celebrations, no adrenaline rush." Jack turned to face her. "You really don't get it, do you? The fans, the champagne, the rush, they're all distractions from how empty that life can be. Here, with you, I'm not distracted. I'm present." The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable, and Emma found herself believing him despite her lingering doubts. As spring turned to summer, their relationship developed a rhythm. Jack would fly to Denver between races. Emma would occasionally join him at American racing events, and they would steal weekends in neutral locations where neither was defined by their profession. With each visit, a new charm appeared on Emma's bracelet: a tiny Thai food container, a miniature high roller, a small Denver skyline. Each one represented a chapter in their unlikely story, a tangible reminder of the connection that had begun with a bet but evolved into something neither had expected. 4 months into their relationship, Emma found herself standing in the Paddock Club at the United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas. All around her, the elite of the racing world sipped champagne and networked, while mechanics made last-minute adjustments to multi-million-dollar machines below. She wore a team-branded sundress that felt foreign against her skin, a far cry from the flower-covered aprons that constituted her usual workwear. "Emma Mitchell," a woman's voice called, and Emma turned to find a stunning blonde approaching with an air of familiarity. "I'm Cassandra Winters. I dated Jack for about 6 months last year." Emma's stomach tightened. She'd seen photos of Jack with Cassandra, a supermodel whose face graced fashion magazines worldwide. "Nice to meet you," she managed, extending her hand. Cassandra ignored the offered handshake, instead leaning in conspiratorially. "Just some friendly advice. Jack loves the chase, the novelty. Once that wears off, so does his interest." Her perfect smile never wavered. "Enjoy it while it lasts, sweetheart." Before Emma could respond, Cassandra glided away, leaving a cloud of expensive perfume and doubt in her wake. Emma tried to shake off the encounter, but Cassandra's words had struck a nerve. Was she just the latest in Jack's string of relationships, a novelty that would soon wear off? If someone from your partner's past questioned the authenticity of your relationship, would you let their doubts affect you? How do you determine whose version of a person to believe, those who knew them before, or the person you've come to know? She was still lost in thought when Jack appeared, resplendent in his racing suit with his team's sponsors emblazoned across it. His face lit up when he saw her, momentarily dispelling her doubts. "There you are," he said, kissing her quickly. "I've been looking everywhere. I want you to meet my team manager." The next hour passed in a blur as Jack proudly introduced Emma to key members of his racing team, his hand never leaving the small of her back. His obvious pride in presenting her to his professional world touched Emma deeply, helping to counteract Cassandra's insinuations. 10 minutes until race prep, Jack," his assistant reminded him discreetly. Jack nodded, then turned to Emma. "This is where I leave you, unfortunately. Will you be okay watching from the team box?" "I'll be fine," Emma assured him. "Go focus on your race." Jack hesitated, then pulled her into a quiet corner. "I have something for you," he said, producing another small box. Inside was a new charm for her bracelet, a perfect miniature Formula One car in gold. "For luck," he explained as he attached it beside the others. "And as a reminder that my world is yours now, too." Emma touched the tiny car, emotion welling in her throat. "Jack, about your world. I met Cassandra earlier." Jack's expression darkened. "What did she say to you?" "Nothing important," Emma lied, not wanting to distract him before the race. "We can talk about it later." Jack studied her face, clearly not believing her but aware of his time constraints. "Whatever she said, remember this. What we have is different. I've never felt this way before, Emma." With a final kiss, he headed toward the garages, leaving Emma to find her way to the team box. As she watched Jack prepare for the race, she couldn't help noting the easy familiarity with which he navigated this high-pressure environment, so different from the relaxed man who had helped her frost cupcakes in her Denver bakery just days earlier. The race was a blur of noise, speed, and tension. Emma found herself holding her breath each time Jack's car rounded a particularly tight corner or engaged in a dangerous overtaking maneuver. The other team members explained technical aspects of the race to her, but Emma could focus only on the red and white car, carrying the man who had somehow become central to her life. On the 47th lap, disaster struck. As Jack attempted to overtake his rival in a tight corner, the cars touched, sending Jack's vehicle spinning off the track and into the barrier. The impact looked brutal from the team box, and Emma felt her heart stop as the red flag came out, halting the race. "Is he okay?" she asked frantically, but no one answered as they all listened intently to their headsets. The medical car sped to the crash site, and long seconds ticked by with no movement from Jack's vehicle. Finally, To everyone's relief, Jack emerged from the wreckage, waving to the crowd to indicate he was unharmed before being escorted to the medical center for mandatory evaluation. Emma wanted to rush to him immediately, but protocol required her to remain in the team box until the race concluded. Those were the longest 30 minutes of her life. When finally permitted to see him, Emma found Jack in the team's private medical suite, looking bruised but remarkably unfazed by his brush with danger. His first concern was for her. "I'm sorry you had to see that," he said, reaching for her trembling hand. "First crashes are always scary for spectators." "Scary?" Emma repeated incredulously. "Jack, I thought you were—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Understanding dawned in Jack's eyes. "Come here," he said softly, pulling her into his arms despite the protests of the medical staff still checking his vitals. "I'm fine. This is part of racing. We crash, we get up, we race again." "How can you be so casual about it?" Emma asked against his chest. "You could have been killed." "But I wasn't," Jack pointed out pragmatically. "The cars are designed to absorb impacts like that. The risk is part of the thrill." Emma pulled back to look at him, suddenly seeing with perfect clarity the fundamental difference in how they approached life. Jack embraced risk, chased adrenaline, lived each moment as if it might be his last. She built her life around stability, consistency, the slow and patient art of creating something lasting. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted quietly. "Watch you risk your life and pretend it doesn't terrify me." Jack's expression grew serious. "Every relationship involves accepting parts of the other person's life that aren't easy to understand. Your 3 a.m. baking marathons during wedding season aren't exactly my idea of a good time, but I respect that they're important to you." "That's hardly the same as watching you crash at 200 miles per hour, Emma pointed out. "No, it's not," Jack acknowledged. "But it's who I am, Emma. Racing isn't just what I do. It's a fundamental part of me." The conversation was interrupted by Jack's team manager, who needed to debrief about the crash. Emma stepped outside to give them privacy, finding herself in the bustling paddock area where teams were already packing up equipment. Tyler Bennett spotted her and approached, concern evident on his face. "Heard about Jack's crash. He okay?" Emma nodded. "Physically, at least." Tyler studied her troubled expression. "And you? First crash is always tough on the partners." "I'm fine," Emma said automatically, then reconsidered. "Actually, no, I'm not. How do you reconcile yourself to someone you care about doing something so dangerous?" Tyler leaned against the wall beside her. "You know, I've known Jack since we were kids racing go-karts. He's always been wired differently, needs the speed, the edge, the risk. But here's the thing about Jack that most people miss. He's not reckless. He's calculated. He knows exactly how far he can push before something breaks. Until today," Emma pointed out. "Even today was a calculated risk," Tyler insisted. "He saw an opening and took it. Didn't work out this time, but that's racing." He paused, then added more gently, "The question isn't whether you can change this part of him, Emma. It's whether you can love him, including this part." Emma considered Tyler's words as they flew back to Denver that evening, Jack unusually quiet beside her. The crash had shaken both of them, though in different ways. For Jack, it was a professional setback, points lost in the championship race. For Emma, it was a stark reminder of the danger inherent in his chosen profession. Back in her loft, as Jack dozed on the couch, still exhausted from the crash and its aftermath, Emma slipped onto her balcony and called her sister, Kate. "I don't know if I can do this," she confessed after explaining the day's events. "His world is so different from mine. The danger, the spotlight, the constant travel, it's not what I ever imagined for myself." "Of course it's not," Kate replied pragmatically, "because you never imagined Jack Reynolds would walk into your bakery and turn your life upside down. But here's what I want to know. Are you happier with him in your life than you were before?" Emma thought about the past 4 months, the laughter, The late-night conversations, the way Jack looked at her as if she were the most fascinating person he'd ever met. Yes, she admitted, but what if it doesn't last? What if I'm just the novelty that wears off, like Cassandra said? Then you'll have had an amazing chapter in your life story, Kate said simply. But from what you've told me, Jack seems pretty invested in making this work. The question is, are you? That night, as Jack slept beside her, Emma watched the moonlight play across his face, highlighting the small scar above his eyebrow, a reminder of another crash years ago. Loving him meant accepting all of him, including the parts that terrified her. Could she do that? Was she brave enough? The answer came unexpectedly 3 weeks later, when Sweet Success received a massive order for a charity gala. 500 specialized desserts needed in just 2 days. With 2 staff members out sick, Emma faced the kind of challenge that would require round-the-clock work. She was in the middle of her 3rd straight hour of tempering chocolate when the bakery's back door opened and Jack walked in, dressed not in his usual designer clothes, but in jeans and a simple t-shirt. "What are you doing here?" Emma asked in surprise. "I thought you were in Italy for testing." "Finished early," Jack said simply, washing his hands at the sink. "Your assistant called and said you were underwater with this order, so what can I do? And before you protest, I'll have you know I've become quite proficient at piping roses." For the next 48 hours, Jack worked alongside Emma and her remaining staff, following instructions, making coffee runs, and even handling deliveries when needed. He didn't complain about the heat of the kitchen, the repetitive tasks, or the lack of sleep. When the final dessert was boxed and loaded for delivery and Emma's staff had gone home, he swept her into his arms and waltzed her around the empty kitchen, both of them punch-drunk from exhaustion. "Thank you," Emma said, resting her head against his chest. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did," Jack replied, "because it matters to you, which means it matters to me." In that moment, Emma realized something profound. While she had been worrying about adapting to Jack's world of glamour and risk, he had been quietly adapting to hers all along. He had stepped into her life with the same determination he showed on the racetrack, learning her routines, respecting her work, and supporting her dreams. "I love you," she said suddenly, the words escaping before she could consider them. "I'm in love with you, Jack Reynolds." Jack's face broke into a smile so genuine it transformed him. Gone was the media-perfect expression, replaced by raw joy. "I've been waiting to hear that," he admitted, "because I've been in love with you since that night at the high roller." As they stood in the flour-dusted kitchen, exhausted but elated, Emma realized that their different worlds weren't obstacles but complementary parts of a whole. Jack brought excitement and spontaneity to her structured life. She brought stability and authenticity to his high-speed existence. "We can make this work," she said with newfound conviction. "Your world and mine." "They're already becoming one world," Jack pointed out. "Our world." The realization was liberating. Emma no longer. It felt like a visitor in Jack's life, or like she was trying to fit him into her own. Instead, they were creating something new together, a shared existence that honored both their passions. When Jack left for his next race, Emma surprised him by announcing she would join him for the entire European leg of the championship. She had hired additional staff at Sweet Success and implemented systems that would allow her to work remotely for extended periods. "You're sure about this?" Jack asked as they boarded his private jet. "A month on the road is very different from weekend visits." Emma touched the charm bracelet on her wrist, now heavy with the symbols of their journey together. "I'm sure. Besides, I've always wanted to try European butter in my pastries. This is research." Jack laughed, pulling her close as the plane prepared for takeoff. "I think you'll find that everything tastes sweeter when we're together." As they soared across the Atlantic, Emma reflected on the unlikely path that had led her here, from a bet made in drunken arrogance to a love that had transformed them both. The journey ahead wouldn't be without challenges, but for the first time, she was certain they were facing them together, neither one compromising their essence, but both expanding to include the other. 1 year after their first meeting, Emma stood in the kitchen of Sweet Success, putting the finishing touches on a special anniversary cake. The bakery had changed dramatically in those 12 months. Expanded to twice its original size, featured in national food magazines, and now employing a staff of 15. Emma's life had changed just as significantly. She divided her time between Denver and wherever Jack's racing schedule took him, maintaining her business through a combination of technology and a trusted management team. Her assistant, Sophia, now ran day-to-day operations when Emma was traveling, allowing her to be present for Jack's most important races while still overseeing her growing brand. The bell above the front door chimed, and Emma looked up to see Tyler Bennett entering the bakery. He'd become a genuine friend over the past year, his initial role in the infamous bet long forgiven. "Is it ready?" he asked, glancing at the elaborate cake. Emma nodded. "Just finished. Will you help me load it into the van?" The cake, a masterpiece of chocolate and caramel designed to look like a Formula One car transitioning into a whisk, was carefully transported to Emma's delivery van. She had planned this surprise for weeks, coordinating with Jack's team to ensure he would be at the Denver track, where he was hosting a charity event for underprivileged youth interested in motorsports. "He has no idea," Tyler confirmed as they drove. "Thinks I'm picking up some equipment." Emma smiled, touching the charm bracelet on her wrist. It now held 15 charms, each marking a significant moment in their relationship. The most recent, a tiny house, represented their biggest step yet. 3 months ago, they had purchased a home together in Denver, a modern loft downtown with a professional kitchen for Emma and a garage large enough for Jack's growing collection of vintage cars. "Hard to believe it's been a year," Emma mused. "Sometimes it feels like we just met, and sometimes it feels like you've always been part of the picture," Tyler replied. "I've never seen Jack so centered, happy." At the racetrack, dozens of children were taking turns sitting in Jack's Formula One car while he patiently explained the controls. He was in his element, still the confident champion, but with a warmth and accessibility that had been missing before Emma entered his life. Have you ever watched someone you love doing what they're passionate about? There's something magical about seeing them in their element, isn't there? Would you be willing to adapt your life to support that passion? Jack spotted Emma across the track, his face lighting up, as it always did when he saw her. He excused himself from the children and jogged over, sweeping her into an embrace, despite the audience. "This is a surprise," he said, kissing her quickly. "I thought you were swamped with orders today." "I made time for something important," Emma replied mysteriously. "Can you take a quick break?" Jack allowed himself to be led to the track's small clubhouse, where Emma had arranged for the cake to be set up. When he saw it, understanding dawned in his eyes. 1 year, he said, softly. "Has it really been that long since you stormed into that ballroom with your dessert cart? You mean since you made the most ridiculous bet of your life?" Emma teased. Jack laughed, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Best loss I ever took. Tyler still reminds me I owe him $10 million. Technically, the bet was that you could marry me within a week," Emma pointed out. "Since that didn't happen, nobody won." "Yet," Jack said pointedly. Emma raised an eyebrow. "Yet?" Jackie stepped back, his expression suddenly serious. "I had planned to do this tonight over dinner, but since you surprised me with this anniversary celebration, it seems fitting to change plans." He reached into his pocket and dropped to one knee, producing a small velvet box. Emma's hands flew to her mouth as Jack opened the box to reveal a stunning emerald-cut diamond set in a simple platinum band. "Emma Mitchell, meeting you was a twist of fate I never expected. Falling in love with you was the most natural thing I've ever done. You've changed my world in ways I couldn't have imagined, showing me that true happiness isn't found in trophies or victory lanes, but in making breakfast together on Sunday mornings and arguing over whose turn it is to take out the trash." Emma laughed through the tears, now streaming down her face. "I love your strength, your creativity, your unwavering determination to remain true to yourself no matter what. I love that you've embraced my world without losing yourself in it. I love that you've let me into your world and trusted me with your dreams." Jack took a deep breath. "So I'm asking, with no bets involved this time, will you marry me? Not in a week, but whenever and however you want. Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the love you've given me?" Emma looked down at the man kneeling before her, the arrogant playboy who had become her thoughtful partner, the speed demon who now seemed most content during quiet evenings at home, the celebrity who cheered from the sidelines as her business flourished. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Yes, I'll marry you." The small audience of track employees and children erupted in applause as Jack slipped the ring onto Emma's finger and rose to kiss her. When they broke apart, Emma whispered, "You know this will be all over the internet in about 5 minutes." "Good," Jack replied. "I want the world to know I'm the luckiest man alive." They cut the anniversary cake together, sharing it with the excited children. As Jack returned to his charity event, Emma found herself standing with Tyler, admiring her ring. "So, technically, I think this means I win the bet," Tyler joked, "since he's going to marry you after all." Emma laughed. "I think we all won, in very different ways than anyone expected." 6 months later, on a perfect autumn day, Emma and Jack were married in the Denver Botanic Gardens. The ceremony was small by celebrity standards, just 100 guests including family, close friends, racing colleagues, and Emma's bakery staff. In place of a traditional wedding cake, Emma had created a dessert bar featuring specialties from every country on the Formula One circuit. Jack's vows included a promise to always take the curves of life at a speed that keeps us together, while Emma vowed to create a life as carefully crafted as my best recipes, with equal parts adventure and stability. There wasn't a dry eye among the guests as they exchanged rings. Jack's a simple platinum band, Emma's designed to complement her engagement ring with small emeralds representing each charm on her bracelet. The media, predictably, went wild. Speed Demon settles down, and Baker captures racing's most eligible bachelor, headlined sports and entertainment pages. But for once, Jack and Emma didn't mind the attention. Their relationship had begun under the spotlight, and they had learned to navigate fame together, setting boundaries where needed while using their platform to support causes they believed in. At the reception, Tyler gave a toast that brought down the house. "To the $10 million bet that Jack technically lost, but actually won," he said, raising his glass. "And to Emma, who taught us all that sometimes the most valuable prizes aren't found in victory lane." As they danced their first dance as husband and wife, Jack whispered in Emma's ear, "No regrets about joining this crazy life of mine?" Emma looked up at him, her heart full. "Not one. It's not your life anymore. It's ours." Later that night, as they prepared to leave for their honeymoon, a tour of Italy's culinary regions combined with visits to classic car museums, perfectly balancing their interests. Jack presented Emma with the final charm for her bracelet, a tiny gold wedding cake. "This doesn't mean the collection is complete," he clarified, "just that we're starting a new chapter." 2 years later, that new chapter included the addition of twin girls, Sophia and Charlotte, who transformed their lives once again. Jack cut back his racing schedule, competing in select events rather than the full championship series. Emma opened a second Sweet Success location, this one in Monaco near their European home, featuring racing-themed desserts that became famous throughout the Formula One community. On the twins' first birthday, as they watched their daughters smash specially made cakes with their tiny hands, Jack pulled Emma close. "Looking back, I can't believe I almost lost you," he said reflectively. "If you hadn't given me that second chance at the high roller." "I almost didn't," Emma admitted. "My pride wanted me to walk away." "What made you stay?" Emma thought for a moment. "I think I realized that beginnings matter less than what you build afterward. Yes, we started with a ridiculous bet, but what we created together is so much more significant than how we met." Jack nodded, watching as Charlotte smeared frosting across her sister's cheek. "I used to think winning was everything. Trophies, championships, beating everyone else. Now I know better." "Oh?" Emma raised an eyebrow. "And what's the secret to winning in life, Mr. Reynolds?" Jack smiled, the lines around his eyes crinkling, evidence of the laughter that now filled their days. "It's not about the finish line at all. It's about who's beside you for the journey." As their family and friends gathered around to sing happy birthday to the twins, Emma looked at the life she and Jack had built together, so different from anything either of them had imagined, yet perfectly suited to who they had become. Their worlds hadn't just merged, they had expanded to create something entirely new, proving that sometimes the most unlikely beginnings lead to the most beautiful destinations. In the end, what had started as a bet had become a lesson in life's most important truth. Real love isn't about changing yourself to fit someone else's world or asking them to abandon theirs. It's about creating a new world together, one that honors both your differences and your shared dreams. And as Jack had discovered on that fateful night in Las Vegas, sometimes the greatest victories come from the races you never intended to run.